K for sure a while. Severson, SE.
You have to get the official congratulations all before.
Thank you very much.
I think it's funnier to just have split. That's how I would do it. It's like the emphasis is on the SE. You don't have to just put SE. That's on that. Really? I don't see how. Just read it. Because I just didn't see the I.
Win-win.
No, I don't know. I like the guy. You have to like fish dash. I got your fish dash man. It's like a oh. War. WARNA. I would do warn dash Y. Like warning.
Hey, good morning, Mavericks. Welcome to our stole ceremony, and we're going to get to our festivities here in just a second. But before we do that, we have bacon, we have hash browns, we have sausage, we've got melon, water, coffee. Head on up to the serving table, and you can be on both sides of the table. So let's start right here with Brian Ball's table. Head up, start eating. we're going to get going here with our ceremony. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce our athletic director, Kevin Weisman, who has a few remarks for you. Kevin?
Thanks, Brian. It's a great day. I think we got past the point where we thought only Coach Moggers and Coach Meyer did doubleheaders in the spring. But we've got our doubleheader today with the student athlete ceremony, Stoll ceremony, and then our Maverick Awards celebration tonight. I can't think of a better thing to do than celebrate Maverick athletics all day. I want to first begin by thanking Federated Insurance for their generous corporate partnership and their sponsorship of this morning event. Let's give them a round of applause. Well, Mavericks, you made it. You made it. Commencement may seem like the end of the journey, but it's just the beginning. And why we always ask that you kind of be where your feet are, or maybe looking ahead, and I know there's great anticipation for next week's commencement exercises. I want to ask you to do something different this morning. I want you to take a little trip down memory lane, just to think about how far you've come. Think about going through that recruiting process. Think about your first time on campus, showing up, moving into the dorms. Think about that first team meeting, your first practice, and how overwhelming all of it might have been. Those are just fleeting memories now, looking back on how far you've come. For some of you, your first year was COVID, showing up on campus, going through all those things, and having temporary shutdown due to COVID, but you made it. You've made it through one of the most transformative periods in college athletics, with the advent of NIL and the transfer portal. Some left, but others stayed, and those are our true Mavericks. In Maverick Athletics, we have a brand promise about building champions. That brand promise, we hope, makes your experience special. Successful both in sport and life, and where we have great expectations for you competitively in the classroom and in the community. And it's just a brand promise. It can be an empty brand promise if you don't fulfill on those brand elements. And we have fulfilled. In the classroom versus average students, our GPAs, graduation rates, retention rates are all above the average student here at MSU. I'm proud to say that more than 40% of our student athletes are regularly on the Dean's List. In community service, all of you have been a part of it. Who doesn't remember setting up Kiwanis lights or tearing down Kiwanis lights? Our MAV celebration with our youngsters, Trick or Treat with the Mavericks, reading, getting out in the community in many other special ways. Oh, and competitively, it's been a very successful year. I sometimes seem like a broken record because I come up here year after year and say, I think we just may be completing the most successful year in the history of Maverick Athletics. Let's look at this year's evidence. It was a tough year to follow up last year. Top 10 finish in the Directors' Cup, a sweep of the NSIC Awards, and 2 national championships. But it started in the fall with some outstanding performances, and on one Saturday that we call Super Saturday, we had 2 miraculous finishes, with women's soccer winning an Elite 8 tournament championship in overtime, in penalty kicks, and just a few hours later, the Mavericks walking it off against Bemidji State in another thrilling finish in football. And those teams went on Football went on to be a national semifinalist. And soccer, of course, made an appearance in the national championship game. And it set the stage for a lot more success. And since then, we've won a lot. The NSIC has sponsored 15 championships to this point in the season. And thus far, we have either finished first or second in 9 of those championships, with conference championships coming in soccer, men's and women's indoor track, and just yesterday in women's golf and baseball. Congratulations. And now with that strong push from our spring sports, we have reclaimed the lead in all 3 NSI all-sport categories, men's, women's, and overall, which is track and field pending. And who better to anchor the race down the stretch than our awesome track and field programs? And men's hockey was right back at it this winter, claiming the regular season McNaughton Cup, postseason tournament, championship Mason Cup, which allowed for a berth in the NCAA tournament where they fell in double overtime to the eventual national champion, Western Michigan. It was a tremendous winter. We had 6 top 20 finishes in the nation, including a national runner-up finish in track and field, a 9th place finish in men's hockey, that all have helped to pull us into the top 5 of the Learfield Directors' Cup standings. With women's golf, softball, baseball, men's and women's track and field still in a spot to potentially score and score big this spring, I like our chances of maintaining a spot in the top 5. So there you have it, class of 2025. Likely, you've collectively topped last year's amazing run. But more than that, the class of 2025 will arguably go down and leave their legacy as one of the most successful classes ever from start to finish. Congratulations. And besides that competitive success, we won the month of April together. It was a busy, busy month. I appreciate you staying tuned in, locked in on the message. We set them up and you knocked them down. We passed a referendum with an over 70% passage rate. Yesterday, we completed the Maverick challenge and completely obliterated our $165,000 goal with a total of $186,000 and still counting. And today, we celebrate our seniors this morning, and with all of our math fam this evening. It's going to be a great day. What makes this place special is you've had some time to take that trip down memory lane. Hopefully you've had the time to fast forward and think about your journey here and what makes Minnesota State so special. I'll give you a few examples. Just last week over the weekend, we had a contingent out at a national SAC leadership event, and our liaison said, "I'm so proud of our student athletes and their leadership and speaking up on a national stage." We have, as one of our own, the NSIC's national SAC rep, and he's going to do a great job representing us. And I think as I look back on the success last year and this year, what's most gratifying sometimes is sitting in the back of a press conference after celebrating another big win or a championship and listening to our coaches and student athletes unsolicited talk about Minnesota State is a special place and Math Fam is real. I got to hear that yesterday at our women's basketball banquet. And I think the thing that will eventually drive me out of the business is the emotions that go with hearing our senior student athletes and come up and talk about their experience. It gets me choked up. I cried in front of my boss yesterday. Well, there you have it. Building champions. Commencement is the ultimate measuring stick. As that walk across the stage is the end game. It completes the process of building champions. Congratulations, And as you think of commencement not as the end, but the beginning of the journey, we wish you great success in your life after Maverick Athletics. We hope we have prepared you for your path moving forward, but remember, this is always your home. We wish you future success, both professionally and in your community, and we hope you enjoy the awesome responsibility of being a Maverick alumni. And as I complete my remarks and wish you well in your future as Maverick alumni, I want to turn it back over to Brian Zins, Director of Alumni Relations.
Good morning, everybody. As Kevin said, my name is Brian Zins, and I have the honor of being your Director of Alumni Relations here at Minnesota State, and that's a job that I take very, very seriously. In that role, it's my job, my duty, to keep 137,000 living alumni engaged with this great place in ways that they want to. I've been in the job 3 years or so, and I'm still learning new ways to do that each and every day. And one of the things that we do is we find those things that make our alumni special, things they identify with, a shared identity. Fraternities, sororities, RSOs, things like that. I can't think of one out there that has a greater sense of esprit de corps, a greater sense of shared identity than our Maverick student athletes. And it's so much fun that in this role, I get to come and do things like this with you this morning, and like we'll get to do tonight. For some of you, in fact, for most of you at this event, you're going to transition from being a Maverick student and a Maverick student athlete to being a Maverick alum. Every MSU student, whether they're an athlete or not, to make it to this point at this university, you've worked hard. You're not the only ones that worked hard. Our students worked hard as well. At a university like this, you don't just go through the motions and walk out of here with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. There's countless hours for everyone, studying for tests, doing those group projects, clinicals, student teaching, whatever hours it takes above and beyond, maybe even working to help pay those bills. In that way, you're very similar to all the other people in your classes, right? However, everyone sitting in this arena today has chosen to do even more with their time at Minnesota State. You've chosen, and chosen is the right word, to represent this university as a Maverick student athlete, and very few people out there are ever going to understand what it takes to be able to say that. In addition to all the things I mentioned before, the tests, the clinicals, the group projects, theses, and dissertations and defenses and things that you've had to do those things while working out at 6 in the morning in the weight room, riding a bus to Indianapolis, or sleeping 4 to a room at a Super 8 in Minot, right? It's not easy. I can tell you that from experience. In addition to being the director of student athlete, or the director of alumni relations, I was a student athlete here as well. Long enough ago that my coach, Jim Makovsky, still had a little bit of hair. That's how long ago that was. But I was fortunate to wrestle here and go through some of the same challenges that you go through. Years from now, our fans are going to remember all the amazing things that you did on the court, on the mat, on the ice, on the course, in the pool. Those are the things they'll remember, right? Very few of them are going to understand all those hours that it took on Sunday mornings, getting back at 1 in the morning, or 6 a.m. workouts on Monday morning before class. They're not going to know about that. They're going to remember the game-winning shot, or they're going to remember a 1-2 finish in track. And you know what? It's fine. It's fine that they don't understand all of that, because everybody in this room, you understand it about each other. Last night I had the opportunity to be at Chanhassen to do an alumni event at a production of Grease, and got to go up in front of 300 alums, not unlike I'm doing here. And in the crowd was my old roommate from the wrestling team when we would travel on the road, a guy that I had to share that room in the Super 8 with in those tiny little towns all over the Midwest. And it was as if it was 1998 all over again. We were telling stories about things that, had happened 25 years ago. And that's what's going to be fun for you to come back here 25, 30 years later. And, Roos and Des are going to remember something from the national championship team, and they'll never forget it. They'll forget their own name someday, but they won't forget those moments. And so that's a lot of fun. You understand what it takes, and that's far more important. Kevin touched on it a little bit. As you head towards commencement, you're going to hear some variation of that theme. Commencement is not the end, but it's a beginning, right? That's not his original thought nor my original thought. We've all heard that. But we can tell you, Kevin and I both, that is absolutely the truth. This does not end your affiliation with this university or with this athletic department. It changes. You now become a fan. You become one of 137,000 Maverick alumni out there, and I have a small ask of every one of you. Go out and do those great things. Go out and be a teacher. Go out and be a nurse. Go out and go to law school or med school. We're cheering for you all the way, okay? Go do those things. Move on with the next step of your life, but please, don't let it be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years before you come back to this place. Come back next year for basketball season or football season or the swimming meets. Come back immediately. This place is always home to you. Our doors are always open, and we are going to be happy every single time we see you on this campus. I think all of us, when we were in school, heard our grandparents or our parents or a teacher say, "I hope you're proud of yourself." Usually wasn't a good thing, right? It usually meant you had done something that you shouldn't be proud of. Well, when I say it, I mean, I hope you're proud of yourself, because we, in our administration, in our athletic department, and those of us that are Mavericks, are extremely proud of you. We can't wait to see what you do next, and remember, we are cheering for you all the way. And say it with me one more time. Once a Maverick, always a Maverick. Congratulations, Mavericks. So we're actually going to do a little practice for commencement. Some of you are going to go through commencement on the 9th, some of you on the 10th, but this is going to be a test run for commencement. We're going to call you up. Anyone ever taken a Southwest flight where they bring you up in groups? We're going to do that. Okay, we're going to bring you up in groups. You're going to queue up here on my right, your left end. Make sure you bring your cards. You're going to come across, you're going to get your stole. You're going to hand me the card, and if you feel like you've got to say your name in my ear so that I get it right, that's fine. Our first group, if we could have wrestling, women's basketball, and softball, please make your way to the stage. What's that? From women's basketball, Destiny Bursch. From women's basketball, Emily Russo. From women's basketball, Desiree Kleiman. From softball, Emma Dennison. From softball, Marina Carter. From softball, Brianne Stone. From softball, Ella Schultz. From softball, Sophia Del Vecchio. And from softball, Cheyenne Behrens. Group 2, please make your way to the stage. Women's track, women's hockey. And at the conclusion of our ceremony, we will be taking group pictures, so stick around. From women's hockey, Jessica Boland. From women's hockey, Kiana Roski. From women's hockey, Mackenzie Borgere. From women's hockey, Shelby Guttermson. From women's hockey, Madison Mashuga. In women's hockey, Suzette Fauché. In women's track and field, Ashley Kreidelbaugh. Women's track and field, Stella Neofitu. Women's track and field, Olivia Solis. Women's track and field, Ilika Lane. Women's track and field, Lizzie Schmidt. In women's track and field, Esther Miller. Women's track and field, Rachel Jaworski. And in women's track and field, Molly Call. Congratulations, Mavericks. Next up, tennis and swimming. Women's swimming and diving, Elise Mishmash. Women's swimming and diving, Aspen Warnagora. Women's swimming and diving, Sienna Sirikrai. Women's swimming and diving, Kaylee Sievertson. Women's swimming and diving, Jaden Hill. Swimming and diving, Abby Gronholz. Moving on to women's tennis, Bryn Pasui. In tennis, Taylor Julesrud. In women's tennis, Avery Stillwell. In women's tennis, Freya Lawrence. In tennis, Hannah Menisi. And in tennis, Elizabeth Felderman. Congratulations to our graduates in tennis and swimming and diving. All right, group 4, make your way to the stage. We need football, men's hockey, men's basketball. Congratulations. From football, Deontay Vaney. In football, Richard Ajacombe. In men's basketball, Dawson Rudolph. In men's basketball, Kai Reese Willingham. And in men's basketball, Tyrell Stutley. And in men's hockey, Andrew Miller. Congratulations to our graduates in football, men's hockey, and men's basketball. Next to the stage, soccer and volleyball. In soccer, Claire Longville. In soccer, Abby Chergosky. In women's soccer, Lucy Wenninger. In soccer, Ashlyn Watt. In soccer, Maylee Mathis. In soccer, Louisa Schramoff. In volleyball, Brooke Bulwark. In volleyball, Torrin Richards. In volleyball, Emma Lovell. And in volleyball, Kaya Durant. Congratulations to our graduates in soccer and volleyball. And our final group to the stage this morning, baseball, men's track and field, and women's golf. In baseball, Spencer Wright. In baseball, Tanner Thompson. In baseball, Cole Ranweiler. In baseball, Zach Stroh. In baseball, Matthew Flyshacker. In baseball, Derek Lillidahl. In baseball, Nick Baker. In baseball, Lincoln Berry. Moving on to men's track and field, Slade Heald. In track and field, Jacob Zebarth. In men's track and field, Kyler Body. In men's track and field, Mael Delahaye. In men's track and field, Benjamin Weezer. And in women's golf, Kelly Winter. Congratulations to our graduates in baseball, men's track, and women's golf. And a reminder, we would like team pictures, a group picture, individual pictures, whatever you would like. And those can be done up here on the stage. As we wrap up, do you have any other instructions for us? We'll see y'all back tonight. But again, congratulations to each and every one of you. I hope that you know, whether you're the first in your family to graduate or not, graduating from this university is a tremendous accomplishment, and I hope that you remember everything about the next couple of weeks, and we hope that it's not very long after you leave that you come back right to this place and visit us. Again, this is your home. You are always welcome here. Once a Maverick, always a Maverick. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.